Empower 11, the best of its kind in a highly transformative time. Are you empowered? Ready to turn your life up to 11? Awaken the life of who you are on the inside to match the life you were meant to live on the outside. Empower 11. Now is your time.
Empower 11 Radio. Greetings and welcome to Empower 11 Radio. This is the live 1-hour show that is being brought to you by myself, Jack Voorhees, and my beautiful and talented co-host who's looking just stunning today, Ann Ribley. And we are coming to you live from Santa Barbara. And this is the program that is about you. This is a conversation about the life skills, the ability to get into that really good place within yourself and be able to present that to the world, empowering yourself as you're empowering others around you. And how are you doing today?
Fantastic. You're looking mighty fine there yourself, Jack Voorhees. What are you doing after the show?
Well, anyway, so, Ann, did I even go over... I think I missed a bunch of stuff this morning, a little off.
But anyway, I'm happy to be doing the show with you.
Good.
My warm, talented, awesome business creative partner, Jack Voorhees.
So today is October 24th, 2012, and you're either listening to us live or you'll be listening to us later on iTunes or on the Spreaker platform that we use. The Spreaker is the application that we come to you on. You can download Spreaker onto your iPhone or your Android phone, and you can listen to us live or our archived shows. For more information about Empower 11, you can go to empower11.com. That's Empower, the EMPOWER, the number 1.com.
Or like us on Facebook, and that'll keep you in the loop as well.
Yes, facebook.com/empower11. So, Ann, how have you been?
Fantastic. This is great to be doing this show with you, Jack.
So you went down to LA on Sunday, and you took a class and
a workshop on. It was for women, and it was Speak Your Mind and Be Loved for It.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. What was the experience like? What was it about?
Well, it was about this place that when we get into the real and true voice in us, it doesn't have tension in it. And when we find that place in our communication, what happens is it has a more relaxed and ease and flow to it, and it makes people comfortable because it's real.
And is there any what kind of good tips and did you learn from this class or workshop?
Well, it was interactive in a way that I feel like and demonstrated. There was a lot of learning to breathe from your diaphragm. And it was interesting the sounds that he was showing us on how to breathe from the diaphragm and make sounds like the vowel sounds. The very first on Monday when I got home and I was making it, Jack had asked, "Is there a baby in the house?" Because it sounded like baby sounds almost. And what I thought was interesting is thinking of those sounds. This is like when children are when they're little, if you just leave them laying in their cribs, a lot of times they'll be making sounds similar to it. So it was kind of funny that you said that. But it has to do with our expression and being true to it, and how just the breathing and the vocalizing, it's innately in us, and how even as babies, they will just instinctually do it and developing their power to express.
And you got to go down there with your sister.
Yes.
And that's always good for you to do your sister stuff.
Yeah, one of the interesting questions that came up in the workshop is, which is going to be relevant to today's show, which is getting on the easy road, because I do believe that we all have talents and gifts and our personal like mojo that's like easy for us to access of who we are, that makes us up. It's like that sweet spot in us, and it's been following us our whole lives. So a lot of times people want to say, what am I good at? What is my thing? And it's not about doing this specific career or this specific job that's going to like unlock everything. It's about getting in the business of doing what's already instinctually natural to you. And one of the questions that he had asked is that every person had to go through, and you had to find out what is your superhero power. And then what is the villain or the kryptonite that takes it away? What's that shadow part of yourself that makes your life hard and makes it hard for you to be energized with what is that natural superpower?
So it caused you to do some soul searching.
Yeah, and he actually did it where we were all around a piano and we were having to sing these different songs to access the energy. Mine was optimism, the superpower of optimism.
Very cool. And what was your kryptonite?
Indifference, numbness,
As
apathy, not caring.
As with many. So today's show is the title of today's show is Get on the Easy Road. And we started really talking about this almost a couple years ago.
It's one of the 11 powers to empower 11. Yeah, so it's one of our courses that's in development.
Right. So we really started discussing this a lot more when we landed in the Dominican Republic, and this is our first time there. Quite an experience. This kind of third world country kind of stuff, the airport and the way things are, and renting the car. The car, you never take the first car they give you, and they're all like these hoopty cars. I mean, there's always something, they're all banged up and stuff. I mean, it's not like, you're going to Hertz and you expect like this Hertz car, and then they bring you this thing and you're like, what?
Okay, well, that starts there with, okay, this is the car, but then you understand why you have the car you have when you get out on the road, and it's literally like driving in an arcade game. A video game. Yeah.
And they're all like drinking beer and stuff in the place where you rent the car at the Hertz counter. They're drinking beer and stuff, and it was kind of like a sorority house or something there. But anyway, the roads are not very well marked, and they act like they just have them memorized because there's not that many of them. Then they say, "Oh yeah, you just take the new road." And I was like,
that was our instructions. You'll go, and when you go up and over. Now, understand this isn't another language. You go up and over and onto the new road. That was our directions.
Yeah,
you'll see it.
Oh yeah. You just take the new road
up and over.
Yeah. So what happens is, we're leaving the airport. And I get on this road, and we quickly figure out it's not the right way. But it's not the right road. Yeah, but in order to get back, you have to travel like 7 miles in one direction. Then you can turn around, and then you can head all the way into the city, and then in the city, then you can turn around and come back the other way. It's just, it was crazy. And we're doing like this loop over and over again, just, and it's getting later, it's getting darker, and the driving there is just unbelievable. Just, Ann keeps saying it's like out of a video game, but it really was. They actually, they're known for, the Dominican Republic has the worst driving conditions of any country in the world. And that's something. I mean, you see all this stuff in India and Singapore and all these, crazy places the way people drive, but it is the absolute worst conditions in the Dominican Republic. So as we're continuing going around and around and around, and
trying to find the new road that's up and over.
Yeah. And,
not speaking the language either.
Sure. And we're trying to activate some GPS on our phone, which I think we got like a $400 phone bill or something from. And, we ended up going in some places that we should not have gone. I don't think they've seen white people there or something. And we're obviously out of place because we're driving down the road and people are pointing at us. People are pointing at us and they're following us with their finger as we're going by and stuff. And, and we start to get into some rough neighborhoods. People got guns in their belts and stuff like that. And it was...
and then they noticed that we were Americans. One guy just came up to the car and stuck his hand in just to shake hands with Jack.
Yeah, that was some kind of big deal, wow. Okay, so, to make a long story short, we ended up having to stay at a hotel that night. Because
it gets dark, and I guess there's animals that roam on the new road up in the area where we were heading.
Yeah, even the locals told us it was too dangerous to go on this road at night. It was just far too dangerous. That they wouldn't even do it.
Yeah.
So we decided to, go back near the airport, find a hotel. We spent the night there. And we headed off for we got good directions, and we got on the right road. And once we got on the right road, it was easy. It was a road that went from the south end of the country all the way to the north end of the country, and it was a beautiful drive, and it was easy.
And that was an epiphany of really, in life when you get on the right road.
Yeah, when. Choose the easy road. If you can get on the easy road, then things can be a lot easier. And if you're not, you can just be spinning around, just going back and forth, just not really going anywhere, spinning your wheels.
It was when we were developing these courses and we were coming up with it, we talked about the importance of flow, getting in that flow in your life. And how easy it is to get into that ease, how much easier life is when you get into that ease and flow. And it was after this trip that we named the course Get on the Easy Road, because I said to Jack once we we were standing up on this cliff and it was so beautiful and we had arrived and it was so easy to get there. I said to him, wow, that was easy once we got on the right road.
Yeah, and we started talking more and more about this, getting on the right road, and how many people are... they're just kind of taking these paths that were just presented to them, or, they didn't really, choose this, they're just kind of, and also their perceptions of what it should be like, how hard it should be and what have you. And, I had a bit of an awakening when I was 16. This is 1982, and I'm making $180 every 2 weeks working as an engraver. I'm making these small plastic engraved signs.
And you were in high school.
Yeah. And it was, it was men's and women's bathrooms and, things like that. I made them for post offices, so it, say out of town on the, where you put the out-of-town mail and stuff. So, that was a really good job for me at that age. That was good money for me to have this part-time job and making $180 every 2 weeks. And all my friends, I had it made. That was the awesomest job. Because I was making so much money. And, a lot of them at that time were working as dishwashers and, things like that and making far less money. So I walked in the first Gold's Gym to open up in Michigan, and the the owner was there, and he said, I'm not able to open up today. I know he had advertised that he was opening up, and there was a big sign that said open and the date and everything, so I walked in. I was in the physical fitness and stuff, and I just wanted to be first. And he said that he would show me around, but he wasn't open yet. And he showed me around all this equipment and everything, and it was really cool. And nobody had really seen much of that kind of stuff yet. And he said, he wasn't able to open because he didn't have the signs to pass his inspection. And his bathrooms weren't labeled and stuff like that. So I said, I do that. And he said, oh my God, you would save my life, because as soon as I get these signs, I can get my inspection and open. And he took out this piece of paper and he wrote down everything he needed, and he handed it to me, and I rushed over to the office, and I used a bunch of scrap materials and things, and I made the signs that he wanted. And I was back there in 2 hours with the signs, and he handed me a check for $180. Now, this was the exact amount that I had been making every 2 weeks, and if it had been $150 or some other amount that wasn't the exact amount, I might not have had the awakening, because I was only 16, and I was a younger type mind set, and it just it had this shift for me, and I realized that there was an easier road to get to this $180, that you didn't have to trade time for money, that you could actually trade value for money. And that changed the road. I started looking for different roads than I had been looking for, because my perception had changed.
And it's impacted the whole way that you see business. And that's like one of your personal gifts of giving value. That's what you naturally do, is you can, from a business standpoint, you see, how can I add value, more importantly than how can I show up and give all this time.
Right. It's this innovation. It's finding better ways and means to do something. It's it's a real trading value for money versus purely trading time for money. But that just is an example of getting on a different road. If that situation hadn't happened to me, I might have just continued to do this hourly wage kind of thing, like most do in life, and not chosen a easier road.
So today, the show is Get on the Easy Road. And this is getting into that flow in our lives. So if we think about our lives and the areas that, we want better flow in, is it our relationships? Is it our career? Is it our life purpose? Is it our money? Is it our health? Is it our well-being? I mean, this is the question. There's a quote that's going around. I've seen quite a bit now on Facebook that people keep reposting because it does speak something. It says, go where you are celebrated, not tolerated. So now think about this in your life. I mean, what road are you on in your path with relationships? What road are you on in your path with career? What's the road with finances in your life? What's the road with health? Are you just tolerating your conditions, your situation, where you're at, or are you celebrating it? Because when you get on the easy road, when we're in great health, it's so easy to celebrate our health. And then it's like the minute it gets taken away, then we're tolerating poor health. So the question is, even like in a financial situation, are you in rapport right now in your life in a way that you can celebrate money? Or is it something that you just tolerate your financial condition?
It can have a lot to do with the messages that we carry with us. It's in order to succeed in life, that you have to work hard. And, a part of that is absolutely, I believe, is absolutely true. You do have to work hard in order to be really successful. But it doesn't have to feel like hard work. The coal miner works very hard. I mean, that's like one of the toughest jobs on earth is to, be a coal miner. The thing is, though, that who's going to get richer, him or Donald Trump, and who do you think actually works harder? And that's just some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. It's like, is it just because this is a message that's been ingrained in us? I watched a TED Talk recently, and the guy put up the slide that so many of us had seen, and that it had a line, and it had like 2 other lines that formed an arrow on each end of the line. And one was pointing in towards the line, and one was pointing away from the line. And they asked, which line is bigger. And we all knew, that was a trick. We all kind of knew it from school. If you can remember this kind of question when they ask you which line is bigger, the thing was the lines were the same size. But in his slide, they actually weren't the same size. So everybody was quick to answer, and brilliant minds, quick to answer this, they're the same size, when one was actually 15% larger than the other one. And it was obvious back when you looked at it, and it was like, oh, yeah, but you're so used to just having this ingrained thing in you, that says, oh, yeah, that's the way it is. Instead of like really looking and not just going on this autopilot type behavior.
Well, that comes down to the $1 million question. If you had whatever is that multi-million-dollar amount of money that you would need to be financially free and set, what would your life look like? What would be the easy life you would choose for yourself? What would you be doing with your time? How would your relationships look? How would your life purpose look? And if you can start to answer that questions on what would you be doing, you start to get... See, a lot of people think, well, if I had this, then I would get in great shape. Well, if I had these conditions, it would be so much easier for me to eat properly and take care of myself. Well, if I had these conditions, if I had more money, then I wouldn't have my financial problems, and I would be able to enjoy my life and celebrate my life much better, and I would be on the easy road. I mean, it goes, okay, like we can even say with purpose. Well, if I had, I didn't have to worry about working my job, tolerating my job, I would be out living a bigger, better purpose for myself. That would be a match to what's in my heart.
Yeah. I mean, so you could ask yourself, what is the ideal? What is the ideal life that I'd like to be living? And going in the direction of that versus some compromise kind of a way about that, like I knew I heard about this person. I'm trying to remember where this conversation was, but the gist of it is that there was this person that wanted to become a website designer, and they were saying that they're going to school for it. They felt like the only way to do it was to go to school for it, and the thing is that they were being taught in school that, hey, by the time you get out of school, this stuff is going to be obsolete.
Obsolete, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be, we're going to be on to using some other kind of code or whatever to do this. But, when I wanted to learn how to do website design, I turned to the internet to find the facts, and I just started doing, and that's how I learned how to build websites. Now, I'm not saying that school wouldn't have benefited me, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with choosing a school path, but I'm just saying that there's something about just going out and doing. Like, this is the ideal thing I want to do. I'm going to start doing that and learning from trial and error and all that, and those kind of experiences versus saying like, there's some that could say, I want to be a website designer. I can't afford to go to school. I can't become a website designer.
So it comes down to that analogy of in our lives, if we want to get on the easy road, we become more like water. And water always chooses the path of least resistance. So it doesn't go in the way of finding the barrier and stopping. It goes around, it goes under, it goes over. And the more we can emulate, which we're comprised of water, the more which is a godlike quality, which is that divinity in us, the more we can emulate that quality, the more we can get on that easy road in our life and become like water. I thought it was interesting, Jack, when you were talking about like when you're going to take a canoe trip. I mean, how do you canoe?
Yeah, you always travel downstream. I mean, it's like it would not be a very fun canoe trip if you decide, I'm going to put in here and I'm going to start traveling upstream. That's just not a natural way of doing it. You go in the way of ease and flow because that's the more fun and you can cover more distance very easily. I think many think that, in order to get the big rewards, you got to travel upstream. You got to paddle like hell but you see these people paddling like hell upstream, and you can paddle like hell, and depending on how quick the water is, I mean, you could end up not going anywhere, just staying in the same spot, and that is a real analogy towards life. That many do this, and they're stuck. They're working so hard yet so stuck,
and that can translate working hard at a job. In a career, it could also translate in a marriage, in a relationship, that a lot of people, it is as if when you say that depending on the conditions, if you're still going upstream, you could actually stay stuck. You could actually not be covering much ground. And this can happen in our relationships with, an intimate partner and even in friendships because of the conditions that relationship brings to the table.
Oh, absolutely. How often have you heard that relationships are hard?
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about this, Jack, because this was the thing we heard over and over again when you and I got together, is that people would say relationships are hard. Oh, well, you're in your honeymoon phase. That's why everything is great right now and ease and flow and wonderful. Mm-hmm.
And my reaction to that was just that, yeah, we're on our honeymoon. We're going to just stay on the honeymoon for the rest of our lives. We don't have to get off. And and it's been a honeymoon, every day. Every day I look forward to waking up and being with you, and that's it's a jewel, and our relationship is not hard. Because we just don't subscribe by that method. It's like, I don't care if everybody else is saying that life is hard and that relationships are hard, and we don't subscribe to that, and therefore it is not that.
Right. So we can look at the messages that have been ingrained in us, and we can choose our own path of least resistance in any area of our lives. Even these messages of money that have been ingrained in many of us, that have become these habitual orientations that we have with how we have our relationship with money. And that can change as well, where we don't subscribe to that. We create our own rapport with this relationship with money that is different than what has been ingrained, or even what is being said right now currently in our current economic conditions. That we do not have to subscribe to that. It is our God-given right to choose our own economic conditions, and the more we can own that, it is our God-given right to experience a life of joy and abundance and love, and that begins in the here and the now.
Yeah, and the more we have our own voice, the more we use our own creativity to design the life in which we want to live in, that's that godlike place to be. I mean, when you talk about creative, and creative is this very spiritual place. I really get it now why women, knit and stuff like that. And I just thought it was kind of like a silly thing, but it's a spiritual practice because they are creating something. When you create, you are created by a creator. Something created you, and you are born with the ability to create. I mean, you can create, you get together with a partner, you create more humans, which is, how just like powerful is that? Like, you can take two humans and create another human or multiple humans. That is just so powerful, and creating is just this really empowering place to be. And the more you can subscribe to your own way that you create in your own special uniqueness, embrace that uniqueness. So maybe it's a unique thing and you and I just say, we're not going to subscribe to relationships are hard. We're just not going to do that. Maybe that's unique. But the thing is, I mean, it's powerful. It is powerful. I mean, it's like you and I are just be like, you know what? We're just not going to do that.
We're not going to do that thing, which is relationships are hard. And, it's great because we both embrace it and it's true to our hearts. So it works.
So, and what is not getting on the easy road? I mean, it's like avoiding things. I mean, we think that by avoiding this or that we are that is an easier path, and just head on going through it. I mean, the only way through is through. I've said that if you've listened to our shows, I always say that the only way through is through, and this avoiding can seem more comfortable, but in fact it is very uncomfortable. It'll keep us in a place of uncomfortable. I always mess this word. Uncomfortability.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
That's like the canoe trip. It really is. Avoiding is a way of staying still, but it takes all this energy to hold that complacency there.
But it doesn't feel like that. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, when people are like in this comfortable place, that's just it feels in the mind more comfortable to just stay in this place of choosing sickness than health, and or what have you.
Well, this is what I will never forget, this story that I was told at T. Harv Eckert's Millionaire Mind seminar, when he told the story about how on record that there's this story about this was back in the day when they had circuses and the tents were not fire resistant like what they are today. And there was this fire that happened. And when the tents went up in fire and the animals were inside, like an elephant that was chained to its pole, was let loose so that it could run out of the fire on tent, the tent on fire. The elephant had all the power to save itself and run out. It was so used to being locked up into its chained circumference that the elephants died in this fire with these tents. And that the people said the most haunting, devastating aspect was hearing those animals cry as they were engulfed in the flames, yet they had all the power to just storm right out of those tents. And that story has stuck with me from that time I heard it. It's like, that's that ingrained patterning that made it seem like that was its only reality, yet it was so uncomfortable to stay in that reality, yet it had all the power to release it. Yet the most haunting part of it was hearing these animals cry as they were engulfed in the flames.
In this experiment, I mean, there's been experiments where this has happened over and over again. Like when they put a mouse in a maze and they put cheese, and then the mouse travels through the maze and finds the cheese. And then when they started putting the cheese in the same place all the time, it would go right towards that and get the cheese. And then after a while, they moved the cheese, and the mouse went right to that spot where the cheese was supposed to be and just waited there for cheese. It just instead of like searching the rest of the maze for cheese, and they actually died because they would actually starve because they wouldn't continue to look for cheese.
Ding, 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 ding. That's a best-selling book. Who Moved My Cheese? That's awesome. But that's where that idea came from, is that behavior, and how does that translate in our lives?
And this is a really important point that I want to make, and that I really subscribe by myself, is how you get there is how you stay there. So many will think that I'm going to take this really hard road, I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to do, all these hardships, and I'm going to just, fight tooth and nail to get to the top. And the thing is, how you get to the top is how you stay at the top. And I've seen it all too often. People get up there, they think they made it, they take their foot off the gas, and it just crumbles back down. And the thing is, if you can get there with ease and flow, in a really good way that you're enjoying, you're loving, and this is just so damn cool that you're just loving it, then when you get up there, you're naturally going to keep doing what you did to get there, and you will stay there.
That's powerful, Jack. I mean, I know that, I'd heard this many times in the spiritual language of your means become the end, and I understand it. I mean, when you say how you get there is how you stay there, that gives us a time right now to look at, how are we doing it right now in our lives? Because however we're doing it, that's what we got to keep doing in order to stay there. So if we look at our relationships, if we look at our finances, if we look at our career, it's however we're doing it right now, that's how we're going to have to stay there. So it's coming up with the way that we know, because we have that whisper of truth. We have that whisper and that connection to God, the life force, the pulse of life, that universal loving presence that tells us when it's the right road, when it's the right way, when it's the right thing to do, and how to get more in tune with that flow within ourselves, that current. Because that currency, the currency of life, that real currency is what's going to take us in the direction and be able to stay in the direction that fulfills us.
So I'm going to say it again. How you get there is how you stay there. And, it used to be that we lived in an age where you could, it was almost like a guarantee. I'm from Michigan, and everybody was like, you get a job at the factory, at the, building cars, and you do your time. You work hard, you do your time, and then you will get this reward at the end where you get to retire and, you fish every day and stuff like that, And that was true. And you could say that you did your part. You can say, hey, I worked really hard. I raised a family, and now it's me time. So I'm going to have a few last years of my life, in some kind of bliss. Kind of amazing, though, that many people died quickly after that, or people were unhappy, they felt unfulfilled. Many did not, when it came time for retirement, that they did not get that bliss that they thought that they were going to get. But that was the story. And that was what many subscribe to. Now the world is changing. I think we're becoming more aware. And with this awareness, life is shifting. And this is the time, I believe, that we need to get more into that special place within ourselves. It's going to take going beyond the average in order to make this above average income, or being able to thrive in your life. You're not going to be able to just do the average kind of stuff and get above average pay like we used to, in these factory times that, in this industrial age and stuff where, these factory workers would go in and, their unions, and, they could make basically a fortune for the job that they were doing. And they're just putting lug nuts on a car all day, over and over, putting the same bolts on this car all day, but making this really good money that they could raise a huge family and put their kids through college and stuff like that. And that's just not the way it is anymore.
Well, because that's not a sustainable system. And that's where we are breaking out of these constraints through our evolutionary expansion as humans, out of these constraints. We also lived in a time, and I am for the loyalty of the family unit and of marriage and of coupling and of parenting. But also, I know that if it isn't working and it's not healthy, we are living in a time where people won't sustain under harsh conditions like that anymore. They're speaking up. They're getting out. They're making a shift. Because if the conditions are not conducive to what feels good, to our best expression, then what happens is we're making shifts out of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not promoting one another's spiritual growth, then there's going to be this huge lack and this huge gaping hole, missing component of a good, healthy relationship. Then no longer do you really need to stay together just for survival's sake. It's not like you got married because you needed to survive. It was a survival mechanism. I mean, we needed to couple up and be a strong family unit to just survive. But now, if there's dysfunction, it's not gonna. People aren't gonna just stay there. Most will not just stay there in today's day and age, just to endure, just so they're not alone.
And so that comes back to what I started out with, is that go where you are celebrated and not tolerated. And that has to do with whether it's your relationship, your workplace, however it is. And it begins by you celebrating who you are and who you're meant to be actualized in this life as you.
Yeah, so you're meant to thrive and not just survive. So it's about embracing, it's about thriving. The survival stuff, I mean, that is, it's just not such a big deal anymore. I mean, we're not going to go out there and get eaten by an animal and stuff. I mean, we're in a bit more of a civilized time where, we're going to survive, So now we really need to concentrate on thriving in all areas of our lives. And realizing that this hard road sucks. So, and the hard road doesn't pay. It doesn't pay like, this you're creating your own way and you're getting into this thriving instead of just surviving kind of stuff.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the hard road, we're talking about that place where you're moving against the path of least resistance. You're actually moving into resistance in your life. You're not in the flow of how your life is meant for you to go and to design. You're not hearing the whispers of truth being said to you. You're not following the signs that are telling you to go a different way. I remember I loved it in the movie Bruce Almighty when Jim Carrey gets he's so frustrated with his life, and it's and he's speaking to God, and he's driving in his car like crazy, and he's trying to pass this construction truck, and it's in its way, and he's just saying, God, give me a sign, and the whole truck is loaded out with signs one way. He couldn't even see the sign as he was sitting there saying, give me a sign, give me a sign. He just wanted to get it out of its way. It's this rushed and hurried autopilot place where we just keep rushing to just get through, versus knowing what is our way and being able to hear the signs, and when we come up against that resistance in our lives, is to know that what is our direction we need to move and flow in, and being willing to do that. In that complacency of worrying so much about how would we look, what other people are thinking, if we made any changes to make that adjustment.
So I'd like to talk about parenting a little bit, because there's some real stuff that I think there's some jewels that we can take from parenting. And you get a lot of people calling you, asking you for parenting advice. And I know it was pretty cool when, this is the first time I was, with the boys and when I first came out here, and we got in, I don't know if we got in kind of late or whatever, but I remember getting up the next morning, and I saw Cody, and he's on the stove cooking eggs. How old was he?
7.
7. He was 7 years old, and he's on there cooking eggs, and he's like, "Hey, Jack, how do you like your eggs?" And I was just blown away. Like, this little kid can make his own eggs. I mean, this is great. I didn't know if I don't know, he was 14 at the time, if he could make his own eggs. Talk to us a little bit about parenting, and because I know there's harder roads to go down in parenting your kids, and I know that it's important for us to teach our kids to be self-reliant.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely a topic we need to address, because when we say get on the easy road, then a person can say, well, what's the easy road with parenting? Because there's no way around it. That takes hard work to raise children. Well, there's easier roads that we can take there, and that's what you were saying early on in the show, Jack, is it's not a question that you don't put the effort forward. I mean, yes, it takes effort to raise children, but there are easier roads to do it, and it all begins with knowing your values that you want to translate to your children, and then being willing to be consistent with those values and those opportunities for them.
Yeah, so I know raising well-rested kids is easier than raising tired kids.
Yeah, they turn into demons. So it's definitely easier to raise well-rested kids than it is to raise demons.
Yeah, and that's something you're a stickler on, that the kids get plenty of rest. Now, it takes more effort, many would say, to get your kids to go to bed. You know, like that can sometimes take a lot of effort, especially in the early years, to get them to go to bed earlier. But there's these payoffs. There's big payoffs, is that there's so much more benefits into having well-rested kids. But it may seem like you're taking a harder road because you're having a struggle with your kids to get them to bed.
Yes, because I'm putting the effort in the upfront with bedtimes, and being very clear that this is a consistent way that we live our lives, because that is what makes our lives easier. Now, whether they believe it or not, but I do put the work in to do that consistently. So I have the clarity to know that absolutely this is a value system that is non-compromising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they know there's no compromising, and actually I've helped with that too, because now I go in and check on them. If they're not in bed by a certain time, then they have to go to bed 15 minutes earlier the next night. And if they're not in bed at that time, then it's 15 minutes earlier the next night. So and they have to earn their way back to their regular bedtime.
Well, that's because there's a lot of excuses and a lot of reasons why we could let that go. Bedtimes, because it changes at every different age and different set of circumstances. They had practice, they got home late, this and this. We have all these reasons why we could come up with on how we had to let this slide. And I'm not saying that we don't have the flexibility in our life, but it's a consistent value system. Not only that does it make well-rested kids make them better behaved, but it also makes them healthier. It is an easier road to raise healthy children than it is to raise children that constantly are battling sickness and health issues and missing school.
So I know there's many that say, hey, it's an easier road just to get McDonald's. Like how do you feed your kids all the time, being busy and everything, without taking them to McDonald's?
Right.
Because our kids don't eat at McDonald's.
We don't
eat at McDonald's.
Any fast foods, yes.
Yeah. And many is just kind of amazed, like, how you can do that.
I mean, it's a value system. It's like it's more of a value system that I want these kids to learn, that food of substance, that's always my words that I use. You have to eat food of substance for every single meal. And if you're not having food of substance, then what is the substance of who you are and what you're made of? And so my kids know that. That's always a value point that I'm teaching to my kids, and my kids are extremely healthy. I mean, this almost blew Jack away with how healthy my kids are with.
Yeah, they never get sick. I mean, they have 6 packs, and they're
very fit.
Yeah, they never miss school. They're just always always healthy. Always,
and that's the consistency in the upfront. Now, I know, Jack, with you and us coming together, we really share common values. And one of the things that you had that was taking self-responsibility. That's a big thing with children, is taking self-responsibility. So what's been great that you've brought to the table is them picking up after themselves. This is a non-negotiable thing, is that you leave no evidence when you've been somewhere in the house. And so, if you had your things out, you're allowed to have your things out, but you put all your things away, there's no evidence. And that's a real tool to self-responsibility, because I feel like, and that it's just, gosh, it makes keeping our home so much more orderly, just easy. And I think people miss out on that gem with their kids. Mm-hmm. Because then later in life, if you're not teaching them that they're making their bed every day before they go to school, if you're not teaching them to pick up their room before they leave for anything, then it's so much harder later to do that. It's not an easy road for them to be able to sustain those kind of habits.
Right. So, we need to kind of move on a little bit because we're running out of time. We have about 9 minutes left, but 4 minutes of those we're going to use to play our Empower Wealth track that is available on iTunes. You can get it for 99 cents, or you can buy an album that we have for, I think it's $9.99.
Yeah.
And it's available on iTunes, also available on Amazon. I just really want to drive home the point that in order for us to realize what the easy road is, we need to open our eyes. So we need to seek it out. And, sometimes when you have your eyes open, it's easier to get a shift in perception. Like, I didn't necessarily have my eyes that open when I had this Gold's Gym thing happen. But because... there's this, exact amount I was making in 2 weeks, I made in 2 hours. It really made a profound shift for me. So we really need to keep our eyes open to this, and we need to make a plan without compromise. So we need to be in this place where how can we get from point A to point B and not make all these compromised side trips in order to get there? What's the direct line? And we need to really own that. When we need to seek it out, look for it, and be willing to go there without the compromise. And I'll tell you, part of the thing that gets us from point A to point B quicker is to have better life skills. Sharpening the saw. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 of it sharpening the saw. Because when you have these really good tools, you can cut through things very easily.
Yeah, that's when you're in flow. I just want to say real quick, Jack, is that a plan without compromise. I mean, this is one of the biggest things that you've added with parenting, is where, you're consistent with your no is a no, your yes is a yes. So you're not all over the place, so that they don't have to guess where do you stand.
Yeah, that's not a good place for kids to be, or even raising like animals. A dog. If you feed a dog from the table scraps, then you're going to have a more nervous, less healthy dog. I mean, I'm just going to tell you.
Then you said that's the same dog that you end up scolding for begging from food from the table.
Yeah, or getting into the garbage or something like that, because this dog is always on edge. It's always on edge. Am I going to get food? Am I not going to get food? Am I going to get food? And when a yes is a yes and a no is a no, you have a much more relaxed dog. You have much more relaxed children. And you have a much more relaxed self when you practice it within yourself.
That's what I was going to say next, is that every time we dilute or deviate and we don't stay sharp and clear and own our own plan, and we allow all these compromises, that's a part of strengthening, where we become uncompromising with knowing the plan and working the plan, so that we don't do that to ourselves.
So there's ownership. Ownership in a plan without compromise. It's ownership in our life purpose, and really understanding what our life purpose is, or at least understanding that I'm going to seek out my life purpose, and that's just, I'm going to live my calling. So there's this gift and talents that you have within inside of you, and getting into that really good place within yourself and sharpening those and then presenting them to the world, that's when you're going to get the biggest benefits. These are the people that really get into that good place with themselves, are the ones that are going to be, extraordinary, get the most gifts.
Well, that's where those parts of us have been following us our whole life. And the more we get in tune with that and ride with that and get into the current of that currency will just carry us.
So the danger is in becoming stuck. If you're stuck, you got to get unstuck. And the way to get unstuck is to not become complacent. It's to become willing and open and make a declaration that you are going to live your life purpose and that you matter, your hopes and your dreams matter, what you have to contribute to this world matters. And when you do that, you'll be able to help yourself to not get into this place of this autopilot complacency, this place of being stuck. And in all areas of your life, it's not just one area of your life, but it's you as a whole, whether it be in career, relationships, your health, what have you, all these aspects together to make up the whole.
That's why I'm excited to share this Empower Wealth track, Jack, because it's all about that wholeness of wealth. I just posted last night, love is the living art of a wealthy life. And it's living it. Our life is living art. And let that statement be imbued with love. Let it activate with truth, because that's where the wealthy life is.
Great. So let's play this track. You want to introduce this track?
Yeah, wherever anybody's at, I ask you to breathe this in deep down into your diaphragm. Let this become the voice of truth and resonate into that deepest place. No matter whether you're sitting at your desk or you're driving in your car, breathe it in, this ability to empower the wealthiest part of yourself to get on that easy road and to flow into your life down the path of least resistance and to be carried to those awesome places that truly is resonant with your heart and the life you want to live.
Money, wealth, riches, abundance, it all starts from the inside first. You have the ability to change your financial destiny. You are worthy of true wealth. Wealth in love, wealth of happiness, wealth of friendships, wealth in health, wealth in life purpose. Wealth in all the ways that enriches the gift of your life. Become that which you desire. Be in the truth of wealth and all the opportunities it grants you. Own your place of abundance. Not just the action of attraction, but the ownership of it. Believe in yourself to go beyond barriers. You are rich from your insides. Your outsides are a match to this inside knowing. Become excited as you know this power is owned by you. Be comforted as you know this power is now yours. Your financial freedom is owned by you. Money supports you living your best life. The health of your wealth is healing and supportive. Freedom is your right. You have the right to live your richest and most fulfilling life. There is more than enough abundance for you. Live in this place of abundance. Own your abundance. Be rich. Prosperity becomes effortless as you continue to practice this way of being. Your life is a gift, and more gifts flow as wealth is bestowed upon you. Greatness is easily achieved as that which supports you boldly steps forward. Everything you need shows up when you need it. When you are ready, when you allow it,
when you are wealthy on the inside. The world you live in is full of abundance. It is time to put the fun in funding your life, the fun in funding your dreams, the fun in funding the lifestyle that you desire, the fun in funding the gifts you give. Enjoy the cycle of circulation as wealth flows, the coming and going and always returning with more. Your insides know there is more than enough. Breathe it in and let it go. Play your way to wealth. Play as you pay and you get paid. Every day is payday. Be happy as you live a paid in full life. Money, wealth, riches, abundance. You own it from your insides, and your outside world, it's becoming a match. You own your financial destiny. You own your worthiness to live in true wealth.
I love that track. That's so good. I listened to this many times when I'm driving in the car, Jack. That was a great job.
Well, we want you to have an empowered week, and we will see you next week right here on this same show. On a personal note, I would like to send love to a very good man, Freddie Dubuque, who's in hospice right now. I want to thank you for being a good friend, and those who have gotten to experience you have benefited.
Get on the easy road. See you next week.